Greetings to my fellow Liberians. We have reached a crucial junction in our country's history. It is important that this time around we're able to make the most intelligent and articulate decision that will assist in the progress and development of our country. We Africans as a whole are very proud people. We Liberians, we're very famous for telling the rest of the world that we are the first independent nation in Africa. However, our recent history has proven that we have yet to go ahead and make the decisions that prove us to be a progressive nation. The past two elections has shown us that despite coming out of civil war and civil duress and conflict, we Liberians are very resilient, enduring hardships. But when it comes to making a decision as it relates to presidency, there are so many factors and variables which must be considered. We have been to dark places in our country history. We have lost so many good people. There is no point at this time for us to regret. However, we must not forget. We can forgive, reconcile, more importantly, unite. But history is a very, very important lessons that we must not forget once we came and where we must go. This message is for all of you who have the power to vote and to change the future of Liberia. Please let me introduce myself. My name is Bobby Dean. I was born in Jalatown, down the whole 66 steps, capital bypass. Grew up in Grangida, Maryland, Webble District, Zwedru, Tonklewen, Nima County. But more importantly, I am a Liberian. And this message is for all of my Liberians, brothers and sisters in Liberia who hold in their hands the power to vote and the ability to make a decision that is going to change the path of our future. It is important to understand the power that you hold right now. It is very important to understand that the decision you make come election day is going to set the stage for a new generation and a new Liberia. It's either going to be for the good or for the worse. I am not going to sit here and tell you who to vote for, but I'm going to hopefully aid in the process of your decision making, because it is important to understand that when we are selecting a leader, we must select a leader who have demonstrated the capacity and ability to lead on some level. We should not select a leader based on the fact that they're popular, they have so-called money, or simply because they are our friend or family. Deciding on leadership for a country such as Liberia that have been through war, that have been through separation, segregation, and degradation, oppression of people of different tribes. Listen, my people, this is a very important election that we must take very seriously. I am not going to analyze who the candidates are. I'm only going to speak to you all from my heart and how I see things from the perspective of leadership and why should we select a particular leader. As we all know, there are 4 primary players in this election. We have George Manuel Weah, we have Benani Ure, we have VP Joseph Boyka, and we have the newcomer to the Liberian politics, Mr. Alexander Cummings. For all the others, I don't think it's important to even mention their names because they're just in the election for hoping that after the election they can get a job in government. So let's begin with also Brumskin. I guess you can talk about him as well. So I will begin with Brumskin, Councillor Charles Brumskin. One of the things that really is annoying with people like Charles Brumskin is that they feel this entitlement that the presidency of Liberia belongs to them, that somehow that they must become president. But let's look at what Charles Brumskin has done in his absence of not running for presidency in Liberia. In his absence of not running for presidency of Liberia, we cannot point to anything in Liberia that holds substance of development, of unity, and empowerment of the Liberian people, particularly our youth, that Charles Brumskin has done. But every election, he wants to run for presidency. Again, I don't see how can one believe that they are entitled to a presidency. So I'm not even going to talk much about Charles Brumskin, simply because this is a man who doesn't understand what it means to be president of a nation. He believes that because he has the right to run, it entitles him to be president. So for all of you who are out there supporting Charles Brumskin, please, this is not about I like the man or I don't like the man. This is about reality. He doesn't have the capacity. He has not demonstrated any capacity. And over the times when he's not president, he's dormant. He's done nothing to empower the Liberian people. Nor has he done anything to create any economic or socio-economic development in Liberia. So why does he think that he needs to be president? So for that, let's just move on. Brumskin, thumbs down. Now let's talk about Mr. Benani Ure. Now, as for me personally, I don't know any of these people for me to speak on them personally. So I'm just going to speak from the public eyes. And I'm going to speak from what I see they have done in our country and what I see that I don't think or I don't believe that they can do based on their demonstrated capacity, experience, expertise, and knowledge and skills. So these are the things that are needed to be president. These are the things that are needed to be a leader in any organization for that matter. Mr. Benani Ure worked in the Charles Taylor government. He participated in the civil conflict in Liberia. Now, listen folks, this is important. We are trying to move forward. We're not trying to move backwards. If we intend to move forward, we must rid our leadership of people who participated in the destruction of our country. Yes, Benani Ure runs the largest Liberian-owned business in Liberia, Lone Star. But where did he acquire this wealth to start this cell phone company? If you look at Benedict Urey's history, he did not demonstrate any acquisition of wealth prior to coming into the Taylor administration. And when he was in the Taylor administration, it was when he acquired the wealth. Now, is this a man that we want to put back into government, give him the power and the key to an African country, which, as we all know, many of our leaders in Africa tend to utilize our banking system and our wealth as their personal bank? So, with all due respect to Mr. Urey, this is a common sense thing. We want to move forward. If we want to move forward, we need to find and cultivate and develop leaders in our country. We cannot go back and pick up cronies from the people who destroyed our country, from the people who participated in the self-enrichment of our country resources and our country money. So, listen, people, this is a simple matter. This is not a thing about whether you like a person or you dislike a person. This is a simple issue. The man participated in the destruction of Liberia. He gained his wealth when he was in government. And he's trying to get back in government to take more money. Now, I may not be as smart as the rest of you out there, but for me, this is a simple matter. If you are going to support someone who have demonstrated that they are willing to steal money from the government, that they are going to utilize the government money to self-enrich themselves, that they participated in the destruction of our people and our country, and you support that individual for the presidency of Liberia, then something is wrong with you. You need to self-examine yourself and think about your value system to believe that someone who participated in the destruction of our country, someone who stole money from our country to self-enrich themselves, is capable of being a leader of our people. So for Benedict Urey, thumbs down. This brings me to Vice President Joseph Boyka. Very nice man. I've had the chance to personally meet him. In fact, in 2006, I carried on a trade mission in Liberia for energy. Had that energy project been approved right now, as we speak, Liberia would have had complete electricity. He was my key point. So he's a man that I have a lot of respect for. But let's face it, people. We are moving forward. The key here is moving forward, not backwards. If we intend to move forward, we must bring in new blood. We must bring in new energy. Listen, to develop a country, take a break. Just to even go about our daily life requires a lot of energy. To go about working every day on your mediocre job, as we all do, requires a lot of energy. We're talking about running a country. A man who have been in government for the past 12 years as a vice president and has yet to point to any significant change and development that he has enacted in his time of being president. 12 years. Listen, people, this is not a game. This is not a joke. We are talking about our country. We're talking about a country that is set back 25, 30 years while other countries around us are moving forward. But you're telling me, you people in Liberia who support Joseph Boyka, a man who had the opportunity, I don't care if someone is marginalizing you. You are the vice president and you have been the vice president for 12 years. And you have nothing significant that you can say, I, Joseph Boyka, was the one responsible for making these changes, for empowering these people, for creating jobs, for developing education institutions, for bringing health system. You are the vice president. And yet, you have nothing of significance to point to as the vice president for 12 years. How can we then trust in you that you have the capacity to be able to move this country forward. We need vibrant energy. We need innovation. We need people with ingenuity that can come forth and say, this is what I have and this is what I can bring to the table. You had the opportunity to demonstrate leadership. You had the opportunity to empower people. Yet, in 12 years, we have nothing for you, Mr. Joseph Boyka, to point to and say, this is what I have done for my people of Liberia. I cannot consciously talk to any of my relatives, family and friends in Liberia and say, this is a man that we should support. I have been sitting back, watching, listening, analyzing the whole process and all of these candidates. And frankly, it is quite disappointing to me as my people of Liberia continue to support people who have shown no level of capacity to lead, people who have shown no level of capacity when in power with the authority to make a difference for our people. So how is it that you all can sit there and parade in the street and rally for Joseph Boyka and rally in the street for Benedict Urey and rally in the street for Charles Brumskin? This is unbelievable. You are the same people who are going to sit there and tell me that these people have done nothing, but you are the same people who are running in the streets for them. Listen, Mr. Boyka, with all due respect, I really do appreciate if you remove yourself from this process, because frankly, you are just creating a crowded bottleneck in a process that desire change, in a country that is hungry for improvement, development, and empowerment of the youth. No offense to my elders. I am by no means sending a message that our elders are not capable. I am only saying that Joseph Boyka is not capable of being the leader of a country that needs to move forward. We don't need to go backwards. We need to go forward. And Mr. Boyka, you certainly are not that individual. Now, this brings me to probably the most famous man in Africa, a man we as Liberian and African can thank for putting us on the map, Mr. George Oppong-Weah, a person who, as a Liberian, I love him. I just can't get away without saying it, you know. But reality is reality. We're living in an age where technology has changed the globe. And we consider ourselves to be the oldest African independence nation, and we have nothing to show for it. But yet and still, when you people out there are applying for jobs, you are only going to get the job based on your capacity, based on your experience, based on your skills, based on your ability to demonstrate that you have shown in the past that you can perform that job. But you are telling me that we should elect George Weah. Now, let's take a step back. In 2004, we were sitting inside George Weah's office while I was in Liberia working with the refugees in Sierra Leone and Guinea during the repatriation process. So, I volunteered in 2004 with the Foundation International Dignity. I went to Sierra Leone and I went to Guinea, where we helped bring some of the Liberian refugees back to Liberia. I participated in the disarming of the ex-combatants. I conducted pre-discharge orientation, conflict resolution for both combatants and as well as victims of the civil duress. While I was there, my uncle, Mr. Sylvester Kakarika Williams, who is a very good friend of George Weah, it was his birthday. So we're at the radio station, the television station, when the petition for George Weah to be president came out. And we're sitting at his office, and he turned to me and said, "My Pekin, the people want me to be president. What do you think?" And I looked at him and I said, "My big brother, all of us in this life, we have a gift and talent. And when we take our gift and talent and utilize it to the best of our abilities, we can make changes in all sorts of ways." And I said to him, I said, "I don't think you should be president of this country." I said, "You have been given a talent in football. And you have traveled the globe and have created relationships. And those relationships can change Africa when it comes to the plane of football. But let's be realistic. At what level have George Weah demonstrated the ability to lead? When you apply for a job as a manager, as you know, I've worked as a manager before. You don't get the job because you just came out of college. You don't get the job because you're just a guy that, you know, everyone knows and like. I believe that's called nepotism, right? Yeah. But let's be realistic, people. This is to be the president of a nation. This is not to be the captain of a football team. Why is it when it comes to real issues, we Liberians tend to look the other way? Then when things are going south, we have a problem. We are parading the street wanting to support George Weah. I would love to support a man that I like. But let's be realistic. I know he does not have the capacity to run a country. You have to have managerial skills. You have to have people skills. More importantly, you have to have demonstrated on the highest level that you have the capacity to lead people, that you have the capacity to inspire, motivate people to want to do better. But when they're unable to do better, you have the capacity to direct them. You have the capacity to correct them. You have the capacity to develop a process, a system, a plan that these people will follow in order to be successful. My people, my Liberian people, tell me, where in the world has George Weah ever demonstrated this capacity that you are parading the streets and saying that he is the next president of Liberia? We must be realistic in what we do and say. We must be realistic in how we make a decision for a president. This is not a game. This is the lives of people. Millions of people will be affected for the next 6 years, 4 to 6 years, or even 8 to 12 years if we don't make the right decision. This is a simple matter. All of the college and university students graduated from college in Liberia and around the world, they don't get a job and be managers because they're a best football player. And they get the job, then moving on to the next stage, then moving on to the next stage by demonstrating capacity and utilizing the skills that they learn and developing and acquiring more expertise and demonstrating those expertise, then moving on to the next level. And when you demonstrate that for a long period of time and have shown that you're capable of managing the budget and getting projects done on time, they're showing that you are able to manage tasks across different metrics of the organization, then they move you to the next level, manager. Then they move you to the next level, director. Then they move you to the next level, assistant VP. Then a VP. Then a CFO. Then a CEO. But you don't come simply because I like you and you become the president of a nation. My people, Popo, what is wrong with you all in Liberia that you don't seem to understand that you have the power in your hands to make a change? And when it's time to make a change, when you step in the pool to make a decision, there's only one decision there is to make. And that is for Alexander B. Cummings. Let's be realistic. I don't need to talk much about this man. I don't even know him. But what I have researched on him and how he had demonstrated from the beginning and have managed his way through the matrix of leadership and have managed large organizations leadership where there is multi-dimension of divisions and segments that he has successfully managed. Government is management. Government is capacity. Government is developing processes and systems that has guidelines that people are going to follow. And if you have never done those before, why in the world should any of these other people who have not demonstrated any of these capacity be elected president? Mr. Cummings has demonstrated this on the highest of level. My people, this is not a joke. This is not a game. This is the ability and the power you have to make the right decision so that our children, our future generation can have a chance, so that we can embrace pride that we are going to go somewhere because we have someone at the hand of our leadership who have demonstrated the capacity to lead, who have demonstrated the capacity to innovate, who have demonstrated the capacity to manage, who have demonstrated the capacity to create systems and processes that are successful. Listen, we don't make decisions when it comes to leadership based on because I like you, because you're famous, because you put Africa in the map for football. No. We make these decisions because someone has demonstrated the capacity and the ability and has the expertise and the skills to lead. And my people of Liberia, the only person amongst all of these candidates aspiring to be president of Liberia that have demonstrated all of these things are Mr. Alexander B. Cummings. And it will be a shame and it will be a travesty of you Liberian people if you do not make the right decision. More importantly, I plead with you all. Doesn't matter who becomes president of this country. I plead with you all to demonstrate restraint, to demonstrate peace, to demonstrate unity, because we can never move forward as a nation, as a group of people, if we are not united. And unification comes with decision making. Unification comes with responsibility. And you must be responsible as a Liberian. You must be responsible as a Liberian when you look at another Liberian and say, congratulations for a successful campaign. I would like to see Mr. Cummings become president because after all of my research of all of these candidates, after analyzing this process, I have determined and I have concluded that he is the most fit, most capable, most capacitated, and most experienced person to lead our people. So I am pleading with you Liberians who have the power to vote, to please, on the day of election, to make the right decision. Don't make a decision based on friendship. Don't make the decision based on a famous person. Don't make the decision based on who have been putting money in your pockets. Make the decision because you want someone who is going to improve you, someone who is going to build institutions, who is going to bring different innovations and technology to our people, because he has already demonstrated that quietly. So my people, I beg you, when it's time to make that decision come election day, please, from your brother, from Jalatan, from Jilitabo, Plibo, Webo, Zweju, Tonklewen, make the right decision. Vote Alexander B. Cummings. Thank you.